Yo, what is up, guys? So, I wanted to talk a little bit about Crouching Tuner's um, lightning arrow build. He did change it a little bit. So, for this league, the Settlers League, he has changed up the setup just a tiny bit. I will leave the link to it in the description. I'll also leave a link for my personal POB, the one I like, my build currently. So you guys are able to check that out if you want to. But I just want to touch on it because it's such a great build. It's phenomenal. It's a very good league starter. Although I was gonna start it this league, but turned out that I, in the last second, changed my mind and went with the Templar instead. Um, and I'm very satisfied with that build too. So I just wanted to kind of speak on this one first. And I am impressed with how well this functions. It's a little bit on the glassy side of things. It's not something you take to the end game bossing, or at least I wouldn't. I would prefer something else. But in terms of doing maps and a lot of the previous league content, it's phenomenal. It is just so good. Now there's certainly things that it's better at than others, but the fact that you can just off-screen stuff, basically just stand way far away and shoot your arrows, and it'll literally kill everything, even the things you don't see. So if I'm standing out here, I'll still be able to kill the Harbinger, right? Super nice. It's S tier in some things, and then there's of course some things that you just don't do on the build. I personally wouldn't do the ultimatums, for instance. I tried a lot, but ultimatums is just too rippy for this build. It's not fun. It's doable, but it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. That's how I see it. For me, it's all about doing Harbingers. That's my main squeeze with this build, just because it's very nice at doing that. But also, if I am honest, I would say it's probably, if not the best build in terms of doing the Legion content. The Legion content is really one of the places which super shines beyond anything else I've played so far. It's just incredibly good at clearing this stuff. As you'll see in just a second here, once they all are unlocked. There we go. You do kind of want to move around while shooting. That's how I like to run the build. So I'll keep moving while I'm shooting, and just kind of like space in between them. I'll drop my ballistas, and then they'll basically help me clear the bigger enemies, the tougher ones that are a little bit harder to kill. But with the ballistas on, they just annihilate those bigger guys. As long as it's not like kind of like massive bosses, you're good. You'll still get one-shotted from time to time because there's just some damages that are insane, like insanely hard to tank on this build. But in terms of just general overall pace, this is super fast. You can see how fast I cleared this whole thing. I kind of like the strong boxes too, just because it's very simple, it's very easy. Rarely do you meet some bosses that are like unkillable, but there are certainly mods when it comes to map mods that you just want to stay far away from. Preferably you will never play a map that cannot leech, because that's the only way we're getting our mana and our life. Also, do not do reflect elemental damage or physical damage. Those two rip you apart too. These are, I really like doing incursions on this build too. It's phenomenal at this. It just murders in here. Like, it kills so freaking fast. So it's easy to get all of your keys and open up all the doors. It's just phenomenal at that. I would say I do have a couple of things that if there was a way to make this just slightly more tanky, that would have been, it would be so fucking goated if it could take a little bit bigger of a hit in terms of like doing your void stones and stuff like that, right? Like those are the things where it's just not really that good, but everything else is pretty decent. And as you can see, the damage is completely fine. Now I have poured just a absolute dumb amount of divines into this build. I think I've poured around, if I'm honest, it's like we are closing in on 150 divines on this build, something like that. And yeah, it's not a must that you spend that type of money on this build at all. I would say it was very, very good in the 5 to 10 div area. It was just performing really well. There was a couple of things that are like I wouldn't say make or break the build, but it's definitely where you'd feel a massive boost in power. Certain things are just gives you like so much more power. One of them being the Dying Sun bottle. So this bottle right here, which is slightly expensive, or it can be depending on what people are playing and how popular the flask is. So in Necropolis League, where I was playing this, the Dying Sun cost me, I believe it was 11 div, 10 div. So I bought that way late, right? Like that was not my first purchase or the first upgrade. That was one of my last upgrades, just because of the pricing. So I didn't want to spend like a monstrous amount of money in the beginning, but I did kind of want to get it to a point where I could do most of the content without having issues. So I do have a low tier version of this build where I've basically spent, I would say, less than 4 div, and you can still do a T16 with that build. It's just not fast like this is. It's not killing as fast, and it's not moving as fast, and you definitely feel that. But I am very happy with how it turned out, and we can go over the build real quick just to kind of like show off some of the gear. So this is my current bow. I'm using the spine bow, which is basically the best in slot base for triple LE damage. So we have this one, which is very close to being done, I would say. I really want to re-roll the synthesis implicit that says increased spell damage, because that doesn't do anything for me. So I would prefer to get something that would be more useful for my build. That would be LA damage or something like that. Attack speed would be amazing. But just the bow itself is very high DPS bow, so I believe this is around, it was like over 1,000. It's close to 1,500, but I'm not entirely sure the exact number here. Let's see, why is Awakened not working? There you go. Okay, so we should be able to see. So it's 1,385 total DPS, or 1,278 on the LE DPS, which is fine. It can go to, I believe, 1,600 or something like that. So you could definitely get something that's better than this, but it's still a very decent bow. Then we got our Lion Pelt, which is mostly for the spell suppress, but also some resistances and some life. We have Heres, which is a very... This is like a must-have, kind of. It's not a must-have at the very start, but it is something you want to invest into early on. Definitely get this, and definitely get the amulet as well, in my opinion at least. Those two are just um, a very nice buff on damage, and it's a very decent spell suppression and safety feature on top of it. So super nice setup with these two. We have our quiver, which is of course a Necropolis crafted quiver. That's why you're seeing all the fractures, and that is not something we are gonna be able to do in Settlers, I believe. So you are gonna have to roll a little bit harder to get one of these. Now I did buy this for around 45 div or something like that, which is probably the most expensive part of the build so far, I would say so. Very nice though. It's super nice. It has basically everything you want. It has crit and crit multi, life, damage with bows, LE damage, and it fires an extra arrow, along with the Dying Sun that fires 2 extra arrows, and then we have the Ascendancy that also fires. It gives us an extra 2 arrows, and that's why you're seeing like this big what do you call those? Oh my god. That's why you're seeing like a massive amount of arrows coming out the build, and they return on hitting, so the whole screen is full of arrows. It works out really well. Now I have Shadows and Dust on, and of course it would be nice to get these double corrupted like my armor. So the armor is nice, but if I wanted a new upgrade, that would probably be double corrupting these gloves and getting the maximum life or attack speed, and then getting frenzy charges or something like that. And we have our belt, which I crafted on stream, which is also fairly close to perfect. Close enough to where I didn't want to change around. It had all the stuff that I wanted. I would really have loved to see T1 live on that one, but T2 is a settle, and I'm happy with this one. We have our jewel, which is just life and mana and a little bit of resistances because we were needing it. And then we have our boots, which is also of course spell suppress and some movement speed and some resistance for some life too. We have our ring, our first ring here, which is just for the strength and the resistance and the life for the most part. And we have our second ring, which is also resistances, but we need intelligence, so that's why you're seeing the intelligence on this side. Now I could definitely get better rings for sure, but for now it works out fairly good. We are capped out on our reses, and that's like the main part. Now our chaos rest is kind of bad, but we do rock the at Series Promise, so that gives us another 35% chaos rest, so we are in the green, but it's not maxed out, right? So that's why I'm saying we could get better rings. So if we were to get like a better chaos rest ring, that would make it to where we are almost capped out on that too. But I'm really happy with where I'm at with the build now, and I'm not looking to upgrade it anymore. I'm gonna keep it as it is, and I'm gonna continue. If I ever find something better, of course I'm gonna put that upgrade on, in terms of like if I find better rings or getting double corrupted gloves or something like that. But that being said, I have made a tiny list here just over some of the mechanics which I feel like is the best for this build. So we have the S tier, which is what it's meant to do, I would say, which is legions, breaches, harbingers, incursions, and you can grind out scarabs and maps too. That is the number one features for this build, I would say. There are certainly other features that you can easily do, but these are the ones where it really shines and it becomes S tier or S plus tier, in my opinion. Now, we have S plus, and we don't have a regular S tier, just because I feel like there's kind of a gap between these two categories. Expeditions can be somewhat rippy, and they can take some time to kill the monsters, so for that reason I didn't want to put it in S tier. Same goes for the Abyss and the Delirium and the Strongboxes. They can provide a tiny bit of challenge, and they can take a little bit of time in comparison to the others up here, which are just like basic instant kills. So Expeditions, Abyss, Delirium, Strongboxes, all very doable in this build. And then we have the B tier, which means it's still doable, it's not bad, it's not the best though, and it's not really the most efficient at doing these, but it's certainly still doable. So you can do blights. I wouldn't do the Ravaged blight maps, just they are a little bit too tough, the enemies. It's doable, but it's just not enjoyable. The regular blight maps though, easy as fuck. And the blights that you meet in the maps, super easy. Tormented spirits flying around and affecting the enemies is not bad either. You can at times meet an enemy that is a little bit too strong for the build to handle, so if that happens, I would skip it and just move on to the next enemy, basically. Beyond Demons is also slightly rippy at times, so for some people, if you're not like super geared, that would probably be an issue. Same goes for the Betrayal. June it's just sometimes they are a little bit too tough, or they take a little bit too long to die, so it feels like it's slowing down the pace of the build. But it's still very doable. C tier is now we're getting into the parts where it's still doable, but it takes quite a while, right? Like Essence, Beasts, and Exiles can be very hard to kill. Like they can take a lot of time. So if you're like me and you just want to like slam through maps and just make some currency and get to the end game, maybe make a second build for the bosses, I would suggest not doing the C tier, the D tier, or the F tiers, because it's gonna slow everything down a lot and it's gonna take you a lot longer. Now I put Heist in C tier just because I really did not feel like it was the best at doing that. It would get instant hit and instant die every now and then, and for that reason I wouldn't really want this build for heists. I think there's other builds out there that are way more centered around doing stuff like that, right? But I have really not done that much heist, so I might not be the best judge of that. Now for the D tier, I put Ritual, Harvest, and Delve in here because you can also do these. You can delve into the mines, but once you get to a certain level or a certain depth, the monsters becomes just too rippy and you die a lot, and it's really not fun then. And same goes for the Harvest. Monsters become a little bit too, when you juice it too much, they're just very tough to kill, and it takes a long ass time to kill them. So it slows the whole game down like a lot. Rituals, kind of dangerous because you're locked into this tiny area. And for this build, you kind of want to be able to move around and have a little bit of space. The more space you have, the better, in my opinion. So for the Rituals, it's doable, but it's just not as enjoyable. Now F tier means just don't do it, in my opinion. You do not want to do ultimatums. It's, again, locked into this little arena, and some of the mods that you can apply to it is super rippy, and for this specific build, not being able to freely move around and being locked into a little area it's not nice. This is something you want to be able to have, like enemies that's off screen that you can hit. That is where it shines. These tiny quarters is not good. Same goes for the maps. When you're in a map, you don't want a map. That's why I was doing Ruined Castle, because it's one big open area, meaning there's not a bunch of little corridors, there's not a bunch of rooms I have to go through, there's not like a ton of stuff that'll stop the arrows from flying forward, which is the major issue with certain maps, is it's too confined, and then for that reason it's kind of a L in my book doing those maps. So that's why I stay doing open area maps like Plateau or like Castle or Ruined Castle and stuff like that. It's very nice, right? Like super open areas is where you want to go. Because you have a lot of movement space, you have a lot of space for all the arrows to fly, and that's what you want, that's what you're looking for. In terms of bosses, I did do some of the bosses. I did the Searing Exact, I did the Eater of Worlds on this build, and I did complete them, but it was a tough time. I also tried doing the Maven, and I tried doing Sirius, but those two were literally I couldn't do it on this build. Maybe it's just because I'm not skilled enough as a player yet, because I haven't played the game that long. I've only played for basically 2 leagues, you could say. And I would say the bosses in general are very strong. They have high like damage outputs, and the physical or the effective health pool is not super high on this build, so you do get one tapped by a lot of those bosses. And that's why I personally built a secondary character just for doing bosses alone, and then this for basically doing all the content that are or the previous league content that are easy to do on this build, right? Like that's was my main thought process, is use this build to save up currency, use the currency to invest into a boss killer, then use this build to build up the the maps that you want for the fragments and all of this stuff, right? Like that's how I basically played last league. I highly enjoyed it though, and I would very much I would probably do this build again. I started out in Affliction League at the very like end of Affliction basically, and I did this on solo self-found. This is one of those characters that are somewhat easy to do on solo self-found because it's easy to run through the campaign, it's easy to get to red maps, but once you're in the end game, it becomes a little bit harder because now you have to rely on actually hitting those crafts and crafting something really good in terms of quiver and bow, which can be really, really hard. And it's kind of a luck-based thing, so for that reason, there would probably be other builds I would go for now after I've tried them, because they're just a little bit more simple to do and a little less costly in crafting. But besides that, I really enjoyed this, and I praise Tuner for putting out this build. So yeah, definitely check out his channel. His name is Crouching Tuner. It's right here. He is on YouTube, and he has a video on the build too. It is just phenomenal. As you can see, he has changed around a couple of things. He's using different gloves, different helmet, but I feel like you're still able to do it the same way I did. That being said, this is a phenomenal mapper. It's like I haven't tried one that's better yet, but I bet you there's probably something out there that I'm not aware of right now. I have hit level 100 on this build, but that was with the Scarab method on the Necropolis League, so that was very simple and very easy. we have basically done as much as we can do. There's maybe a couple of other things that we can like create that are a little bit better, but as of right now, I'm very satisfied with it. And I don't think I want to change around anything at the moment. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. So, that being said, I appreciate everybody watching, and if you like the video, please like and comment, and leave a sub if you want to see the next one. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Yes, sir.